All right, what's up, everybody? How y'all doing out there? I am Frank Red. I want to thank you for joining me in conversation for another edition of the In the Dungeon Show. We are excited to be in conversation with you, talk about what's going on in the world of sports. The New York Knicks showed something that they did not do in the first two games of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers. Game 3, they showed that they could execute down the stretch. And it was a beautiful, beautiful performance from a lot of guys. And I want to salute them. Big performances by a lot of guys. None bigger than Cat Towns. He was awesome. He really was. And this is going to go a long way in starting to develop a lineage in the history of his tenure as a New York Knick. This was a big-time performance. 20 points in the fourth quarter, shooting from 30 feet, making tough shots, dunking on people. Cat Towns was the man, no doubt about that. But a lot of people didn't think that the Knicks could win a game like this, especially when you consider that their best player, Jalen Brunson, really didn't have a good game. He wasn't bad. He was solid down the stretch, made clutch free throws down the stretch like he normally does, made a really tough runner. I don't have any problems with Jalen. I mean, Jalen is 6'1", going up against guys who are generally 6'5" and taller, and it could wear on you, specifically in the half court. So I don't have a problem with him. He's not always going to play well, but mentally he's never going to be afraid of the moment. And I think that's what you want in your best players. I also want to talk about Tom Thibodeau, who, let's face it, the last couple of games was not his best efforts as the head coach of the Knicks. But in game 3, he got the win. Now, one of the things that a lot of people don't talk about that is true, you need your players to make you look good, all right? You could talk about coaches not making the right moves or screwing up, but he made some decisions that I think he would like to have back. But your players sometimes are the ones that make you look good. As great a coach as Phil Jackson is, he's not Phil Jackson without Michael Jordan. Steve Kerr is not Steve Kerr without Stephen Curry and Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson and Andre Iguodala. So you got to have players step up. You can't always label these guys as great players because they might not be great players. They might be great in those moments. And that's really what it's all about. Indiana didn't play bad, but they didn't play their best basketball. And this might come back to haunt them. I think they were a little off balance. Miles Turner, who I think the LA Lakers are taking a long look at, was really inconsistent, and they might have to revisit those thoughts of having him on the Lakers. And he didn't play well tonight at all. He was kind of a liability, offensively and defensively. As I digress, a side note, I saw a picture of Luka at a baseball game. You guys see Luka? Luka's lost in excess of 20 to 30 pounds, which is amazing. It's only been, maybe 6 weeks? If that long, a month? But he looks like a 19-year-old. He looks lean and trim like he did when he was a youngster. And a lot of times, athletes don't want to accept criticism when you talk about somebody's weight. But as a basketball player playing his position, you can't be more than 230, 225, 230. As much running as you do. So I digress. We'll talk about that a little later. But I want to uplift the New York Knicks 106-100 over the Indiana Pacers in Game 3. We definitely have a series now. New York Knicks fans are going crazy, hyperbole, hysteria. I'm not going to do that. You know, this is going to be a tough series, close. And the Knicks built a nice foundation tonight, you know, to put Indiana on pause, to let them know that this is not going to be a cakewalk. I don't know about you all, but I'm not superstitious, but I'm spiritual. And it didn't go over my head yesterday when the New York Liberty beat the Indiana Fever on that very same court. Liberty doesn't play in Madison Square. They play at Barclays, but they are from New York. And I think that they did set the tone. That didn't go over my head. And I'm sure when you consider that Rick Carlisle and Halliburton and many other Indiana Pacers players were at the game, they would have liked to see a victory by the Fever to build momentum. It didn't happen. Let's talk about the ebbs and flows of basketball, though. Remember when the score was 55-35 and Thibodeau called timeout? Jalen Brunson was in foul trouble. Too many turnovers. I was really, really concerned. And Deuce McBride, a guy who I kind of got on Friday night, he came back and played big minutes tonight. But I think that I was on to something. The last game, Deuce McBride played 25 minutes. He played 15 minutes tonight. He had 9 points in 15 minutes, and he had some big boy points. So I got to give Deuce McBride a lot of credit. But Shattuck, Deron Wright, essentially what I said on Friday is Tibbs, you got to play your bench. You got to give these guys a chance. And he did that. He showed that he was not stuck in his box. You know, I'm sure he got a gazillion phone calls from all of his mentors and his assistant coaches, the people who he trusts, and he went against his tendencies. You could argue that he did so because Brunson was in foul trouble, but I think it was more than that. I think he realized tonight that playing 7 guys against a really good Indiana team is not going to cut it. That's why a guy like TJ McConnell comes off the bench spitting fire. TJ McConnell comes off the bench like he's playing against the 8th grader in junior high school who got the MVP trophy over him. You know, I'm going to get you. And he played a good game. But when the Knicks were coming back in the third quarter, he was out there on the court, and he was a little skittish. You know, so from Rick Carlisle's perspective, he made a couple of mistakes. I think he went with Halliburton on the bench too long in the third. And I know he wanted to show confidence in Ben Mazareth, but Ben Mazareth just killed him. He did. He was awful. It might be interesting. The Warriors might be interested in him because he's certainly not playing up to his talent. It would not surprise me if he's not in Indiana next year and somewhere else. He's not a great three-point shooter, but he's a very talented guy. The Warriors might consider getting in the DeLon Wright business also. But he's a guy who gets hired every year by a different club, doesn't play a whole lot, but when he does play, he plays well. And what that says to me is he's a good locker room guy, right? He's a good locker room guy. So that's a player to keep your eyes on. We're going to get into the Warriors and get into the Jonathan Kuminga deal. I was watching a post-game show on television last night. I'm sure a lot of you saw it. And I thought it was a hatchet job. I didn't like it, man. I thought it was kind of slanderous for on Kuminga. I don't think it was fair. They put together a vignette of all the mistakes that Kuminga has made throughout his career, trying to justify whether or not he should be traded. And then they co-signed that with verbiage. They didn't show any of his great plays, you know? So, I mean, I don't want Kuminga to come back. I don't. If he gets paid and he's here, obviously I don't have a problem with it. He's a really good player. But when I look at Obi Toppin and his role with Indiana, now he doesn't have the potential that Jonathan Kuminga has, but to think that guy was nailed on the bench in New York for 3 years is blasphemous. God awful. And when I look at Jonathan Kuminga, hey, in the right system, this guy can be a 20-point scorer. So we're going to get into some Warrior talk a little later. But I want to talk about the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers. The Knicks came back after being down 13 at halftime to secure a 106-100 victory in awesome fashion. There were periods when the Knicks looked like the Pat Riley-led Knicks in the early 1990s. Indiana literally could not score. The Knicks' half-court defense in the second half was supreme. And that's how you win. That's how you win. Let's get it started and talk to the great Vicky. She says, hey, all right, Frank, congratulations to your Knicks. I appreciate you. And I'm not, Vicky, you know me. I'm not a big-time cheerleader. I watch the games. Needless to say, I'm very happy. And I'm very proud of the performance that they displayed tonight, because the idea of them coming back down 3-0, highly unlikely. Right now, it's 2-1. You got a game. You have a series, excuse me. What's up, Keith? How you doing? He says, what's up, Frank? I said last time that Cat always leaves me disappointed when I see him play. I'm so happy he shut my ass up today with the game. Well, listen, he shut you, me, and millions of Knicks fans up, all right? That was the best game, the best moment that Cat has had as a professional. That was the game that Jimmy Butler wanted to see when he was in Minnesota. He wanted to see that type of bravado, that type of confidence in himself. I love the fact that Cat, although he made some big-time moonshots, how many times did he go to the hole for tough twos and and-ones? I mean, when he dunked on Neesmith, that was awesome. He went to the hole after a shimmy at the top of the key and put it up lefty for an and-one. Yo, he looked like that dude tonight. And I can't wait for game 4 on Tuesday night. That was awesome. The pace the Pacers play at, the Knicks need to rely more on the bench to keep their starters fresh. Absolutely. But one of the things that Indiana didn't do tonight, and it tripped them up, is they found themselves playing more of a half-court game, particularly in the second half. Indiana only scored 42 points in the second half. So they got away from what they wanted to do. I'm not quite sure. I got to think about that. They didn't play their game. The first half they did. Think about it. They had 55 points with maybe 4 minutes left in the first half? So I think the Knicks' ability to make shots and having Indiana have to take the ball out of the hoop and take it out of bounds slowed them down, because the Knicks were not missing a lot of shots. At one point in the second half, the Knicks were executing in the half court like a championship caliber team. It's beautiful to watch. Key says, I don't think changing the starting five was necessary. How about you? No, I don't think it was necessary, but I think what it did was it energized the team. So in terms of production, they were plus 30 though when Cat Towns and Robinson are on the court together. They're plus 30. So that tandem of having an offensive guy and a defensive rebounder, offensive rebound on the court, it actually works. What I think was amazing to me, and I like him even more, was they took Josh Hart, the heart and soul of the team, out of the starting five. And Josh Hart said, you know what Josh Hart said? He said, I'm always preaching sacrifice and team. So I got to show that. When inside, he was like, wait a minute, you blaming me? But he didn't show that. He came off the bench halfway through the first quarter, and played his normal grit and grind Tony Allen type of game. So psychologically, I think changing the starting lineup helped more than actually the production from the players on the court. But psychologically, I think it did something for them. What do you think about that? Vicky says, I think JK needs to be traded for his mental health. I agree. You know what? I totally agree with you. This is a figurative war that he can't win. He can't win this one. You know, there's two things going on here. Ideally, fundamentally, he doesn't quite fit, which would mean that the Warriors have to modify their system for him. They don't want to do that, and they're not going to do that. And number two, they don't want to pay him. They do not want to pay this guy. And you could argue that they don't want to pay him because they don't trust him. It's not about the money. And I'm cool with that because, there's nothing that says that Joe Lacob is a penny pincher. He's not. He's not. He's a guy who pays players. So the Warriors got to wrap their head around that. Even on television last night, when they were throwing some of the numbers out, they were talking about $25 million. I'm like, what world are you living in? Jonathan Kuminga's not going to sign for $25 million. And not only that, they kept implying that Jonathan Kuminga doesn't have a ring. He has a ring. I'm like, wait a minute, what am I watching? Are some of these guys prepared for this show? First of all, you're lowballing him compared to his contemporaries who basically done the same thing that he's done. And then you are miseducating the audience, saying that, acting like he doesn't have a ring. He has a ring. Did he play a major role? No. You could say, well, he didn't play a major role in the 2022 champions, but he has a ring. Same number of diamonds, same size, fits around his finger. I just thought it was, I didn't like that, man. Didn't like it at all. If Kuminga comes back, that also would mean that Draymond would have to go to the bench because they're going to get a center. Probably Brook Lopez. I would love to see the Warriors draft a rookie with the 41st pick and have that rookie come into Summer League and set the world on fire and just start starting. You know, somebody 7 foot who can play. I don't know who that player is, but I want to see somebody who's 7 feet, who plays hard, that can give this team more presence. Because I don't think the Warriors are that far from challenging from a championship. And we can talk about that a little more tonight as well, but I don't think they are. Young West 79, what's up? How you? If the Knicks win Game 4, I think the Knicks are winning the series. Wow. You want to make me feel really happy? If the Knicks are up 2, if the Knicks win Game 4, and it's 2-2 going to Madison Square Garden for Game 5, I'm talking about a happy man right here. I'm a fan of two things: my mother and the Knicks. That's it. I respect a lot. I admire things, but a fan, my mother and the New York Knicks. And I'll see how long it lasts. I'm also a major fan now of Natasha Cloud of the Liberty. I love how she plays basketball. She's awesome. One of the best two-way players in the WNBA. Becky, Ant-Man came through last night. What a game he had. Yes. That was a superstar performance, right? 143 to 101. Yeah, 143 to 101. Minnesota took care of OKC, and that's 2-1. OKC's better. They're more organized. they're more cohesive. They're not more experienced, but they play like they're older, actually. But Minnesota proved that they wasn't ready to go on vacation. And I'm going to break this down. It's so simple. Because Minnesota is not a high assist team, because they're not a great ball handling team, everything that they do is predicated on them making shots. They were 20 for 40 last night from three. They shot 57% from the field. When you have numbers like that, you're going to beat most teams. And Shea Alexander, I believe, was maybe 3 for 14. So it was a lopsided match. But Minnesota is challenged because they're not a playmaking team. The game is hard for them. Cat and Brunson are the two best in the series. Would you agree? Yes, but I think that Halliburton is proven that he's underrated. And Pascal Siakam, I got crazy respect for him. He's not a perennial all-star, but he's a 2 or 3-time all-star. He's a good player. He's probably best as your number 3 best player. If Pascal Siakam is viewed as number 3 of a big 3, he's probably one of the 3rd best players on a super team in the NBA. He's that good. As a number 2 option, he's still really good. But he's not the prohibitive best player at number 2. At number 3, he's rock solid. I'm taking Jalen Brunson all day, just simply because of the nuance that he plays with. He plays for my team. I go back to Villanova. I've been a fan a long time. I just like the guy. But Tyrese Halliburton is better than I thought he was. He's getting to the point now where his long-range jumper is money. He's a good player, man. I think he's going to be on the Olympic team in 28. He causes problems because he's 6'6", long arms, and an orthodox release. And he's improved his release a little bit. He's tough. The Indiana Pacers are a damn good team. They really are. Vicky says, I think Joe would rather pay Giannis than Kuminga. Absolutely. Absolutely. But can you imagine the backlash? I know you don't care, Vicky. She's like, I don't care. Can you imagine the backlash that the Warriors would get if they got Giannis? I don't know how they're going to do it or if they're going to do it. The world went crazy when they got KD. And KD was a free agent. You put Giannis on the Warriors next year, they're winning the title. They're winning a title. So it's kind of a pipe dream. We'll see. Frank, who's that backup guard right for the Knicks? He was playing great D and stepped up. That is the great DeLon Wright. The younger brother of the Warriors, sometimes basketball analyst. I don't know where he was this year. He wasn't around that much. Darrell Wright, who's a champion, who played for the Miami Heat. DeLon Wright actually went to San Francisco JC, played 2 years there. I believe he won a California State Championship, and then he moved on to Utah and became a great player there for 2 years before being picked in the first round. So, yeah, I mean, listen, I just said that the Warriors might want to get in the DeLon Wright business because this dude's been in the league for like probably 8 years now, maybe 9. And the only challenge that he has is he's not a high three-point shooter. I think for his career, he's probably around 32 or 33%, which is not exciting for the Warriors because they like to shoot a lot of threes. Saying that, He's a two-way player. He's very competent as a ball handler, good decision maker, and he plays defense. He's 6'6". Even a great player like Halliburton or whomever, when you're looking at somebody who's 6'6", that's not making ridiculous fouls, he's an asset. Young West says, I'm not feeling the SGA hate on social media. I think he's a great basketball player. I'm not on social media like that, but I get it. And I hate to say it, but I think, you know, it's almost like some of that Drake residue, man. I mean, he's from Canada, dude. And it's totally unfair. This is kind of comical, right? I'm kind of being facetious when I say this. But we're not used to brothers speaking such great English. He speaks perfect English, right? I just think he does everything right, man. He does everything right. But I can go back a couple of years ago when Chris Paul was talking about this young man. When he and Chris Paul played together on OKC, and Chris Paul was kind of a mentor to him. And Chris Paul talked about the great human being that he is and his family and just does everything the right way, man. So, you know what? We need to stop that. People need to stop and be able to take a step back and just appreciate people for who they are. He can't be stopped. He plays like Penny Hardaway to me. The only difference between Penny Hardaway and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is he's not a super athlete. So I think, he methodically gets the job done. He's averaged 30 for multiple seasons. All kidding aside, man, the guy's a great player and a great leader. But I do think that they could still win the championship, but he's going to have to show a little more nastiness, a little more grit. I don't know where that comes from in Canada. I don't. You know, the closest I've been to Canada is Nova Scotia. What a place, by the way, Nova Scotia. But you need that grit. I haven't really seen that grit from Shai. And maybe I won't see it because that's not who he is. But Ant-Man has it, right? Gary Payton has it. Had it. Stephen Curry has it. There's just an edge that gets you over the top. Now, one thing that I saw from Shai that I liked, about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, I put out a tweet and I said, listen, OKC is not serious about winning the championship because of the shenanigans that they have at the end of games when they're doing interviews. It's ridiculous. And all of a sudden, after they lost a game or two to Denver, I started to see Shai doing more professional interviews. And when guys are standing behind him, he's looking at those guys saying, yo, you guys can chill. So there's a level of seriousness that I think that he's taken on. And I think he's great. I love to have him on my team. I'll tell you that. I don't like to hate either. Vicky says, the Warriors need a two-point guard to help, a second point guard to help Curry. Yeah, they do. That's what we're talking about. You know, DeAnthony Milton, DeLon Wright, Monte Morris. They need competent players who are not built strictly on the three-point shot, because that's going to get you beat. You know, the percentages for three-point shooters goes way down when you're guarded. I don't know why it's so hard for people to understand that. When people guard you, it's hard. Indiana's doing a really good job on Jalen Brunson. Those open threes that he normally gets, he's not getting those now. He's being guarded. Good players guard. That's who I thought he was. DeLon Wright, tall point guard, great D, younger brother of Warriors Sphinx. Yeah, man, I'm a basketball nut, all right? I'm a sports nut. I watch everything. So, yeah, I go a decade back with DeLon Wright. SGA is a great player. He had a great year. He did, Vicky, but I think it's imperative for his legacy to win a championship because they kind of had a pass this year. Trades in the middle of the year. No real battle-tested teams. Stephen Curry got hurt. It's not going to be that way next year. You're going to have some teams that's going to challenge OKC. OKC, what? Won 68 games this year? They're not winning 68 games next year. Next year, maybe they'll win 62. Maybe they'll win 60. They're not winning 68. That's for damn sure. So I think they need to really seize the moment right now. Because there's going to be an influx in the Western Conference in terms of talent. Vicky says, Milton fits so well with the Warriors. I hope they can sign him. Not quite sure what happened there. I have no idea. The root against OKC. Okay, I root against OKC because of that horrible commercial where they're dressed like look stupid. Kind of corny, right? Yeah, they do corny stuff. It's goofy. You know, they're kind of goofy. Somebody told them that was funny, and they went for it. And I'm sure a lot of people thought that was a really cool commercial. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was kind of goofy, but I didn't have a problem with it. Totally different vibe than Ant-Man chilling in a car with one of his random guys. We don't know who that guy is. And those guys singing Mario, Let Me Love You. That was cool, right? That was cool. And I think that's the difference. Some creative person needs to make Shay cool. You know? Tell me you didn't love that Ant-Man commercial. It's a dope commercial. Just chilling back in the car in the summer when he's off in his hood. He and his boy they grew up with singing horribly, you know, as they should, singing a Mario song. That was a dope commercial. Young West says, is the Derek White rumor to the Warriors a real thing? If Jason Tatum wasn't hurt, I would say yes. I can't see them losing that much brain power in a year in which Jason Tatum is not going to be there. I think he's too vital to their system. Would they like to trade him? I think so. He makes a lot of money. But saying that, if they trade him for Kuminga, then they got to pay Kuminga. So I think the Warriors think Derek White's a nice player. He makes a lot of money. I don't know. I don't think he's going anywhere because Tatum is hurt. I think if Tatum wasn't hurt, then it could possibly happen. But I don't think it's real. No, I don't. I think the realest thing is, you know, the Cam Johnson, you know, discussion for Kuminga, maybe with something else. That sounds plausible. Obviously, any talk concerning Giannis is going to include Kuminga. Although from Milwaukee's perspective, they're looking at Houston, San Antonio before they get to the Warriors. Now, I'm going to tell you a real rumor that I think might come to fruition. Drew Holiday to Sacramento, I think is real. I think it makes sense for Sac because even though his skills are starting to deteriorate, his mental capacity to play the game has not. He would be a boost to that locker room. They would win more games to create a solid foundation and leadership for them. And I think Boston feels, and they showed when Holiday was out all those games, they have ample replacements. They do. The kid from Oregon, and even Derek White. I mean, I watched Derek White play at Colorado his senior year in the Pac-12, and he's a point guard. You know what I'm saying? And they don't run a high pick and roll offense. Their offense is very similar to the Warriors, and that is pass and cut continuity to get a three-point shot. So Drew Holiday to Sacramento actually makes sense. But Boston, they don't want DeRozan. They don't want DeRozan. So maybe it'll be a three-team deal there because DeRozan really doesn't fit with Boston. And Key says the commercial is goofy. It is goofy. It's definitely goofy. No doubt about that. Did you know the Knicks are 6-1 on the road in the playoffs? Only 3-5 actually at the Garden, which is, that number's upside down. They got to fix that. They have to fix that. But the Knicks are 6-1 on the road. I want to see the Knicks save the ratings. I had a friend text me about an hour ago and says, Red, I'm going to give you credit for your Knicks, but I want to see an Indiana and OKC final. I'm thinking to myself, do you eat squash? You must love squash. Only a squash eater would want to see that finals. Or somebody who was forced to eat green peas as an 8-year-old. I remember when my mother used to try to make me eat green peas. You know what I would do? I would stuff the green peas in my mouth, take water, whatever I was drinking, and just swallow the whole thing. I do not like green peas, and I don't like squash. Indiana versus OKC, I don't want to see that. Now, from a basketball perspective, it might not be bad, but aesthetically, nah. I want that New York crowd. I want that. You guys have any thoughts about what took place between, and I usually don't talk about other people. That's not my show, but I think it's interesting. Ryan Clark versus RG3. That was kind of the big story midweek. I'll give you my take on it. Let me get Keys in here first. So, the Warriors need to do what the Niners did. Trade Kuminga for a bunch of picks who are ready to contribute day one. We need that. I'm not mad at that. With regards to Ryan Clark and RG3, Ryan Clark is a smart guy. He is. He has really good analytical skills. RG3 smart too. I think that the real rub is RG3 essentially got fired from ESPN. He might have a year or two left on his deal where he's still getting paid. I don't know what the status of his contract was. But if you look at his job performance at ESPN, he's a pretty talented analyst. But he kind of comes off like, like somebody who uses like quote cool pop phrases wrong. He does that sometimes. It's kind of goofy. He comes off kind of goofy. I don't know how that plays a role in his professionalism, because I think he's a pretty good analyst. And I don't think that, based on his performance, he should have been fired. I think he's a little salty about that. So his takes sometimes, now that he's doing podcast stuff with his wife, can be a little biting. And he made a take about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, the one that most people are making. I don't necessarily want to get into that. But what he said was Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark. And I was triggered by that. I don't like that word. And I didn't think he should have used that word. And I think Ryan Clark maybe felt the same way. I don't know. But he took it to a whole nother level because of who RG3 is married to. And he kind of brought his wife into it, and that got kind of crazy. And he apologized for doing that. I don't know if that was on his own volition, if he had some coaching from ESPN, which is not unreasonable. But he did apologize. I thought he articulated himself pretty well about where he was going. I also thought, for the people who had a problem with Ryan Clark, they omitted something that was kind of interesting to me. While RG3 consistently does a podcast with his wife in which she is offering sports takes on a lot of different things, in that particular take from RG3, she was sitting in the background with a cup, kind of nodding, kind of validating what he was saying. What was that all about? Nobody kind of touched that. Does that mean that she should have been dragged by Ryan Clark? No, it doesn't. But my thing was, if you have an opinion on it, then voice your opinion. And she never did that. And that was, I noticed that. I'm sure a lot of people noticed that, but they didn't really want to comment on that. They just wanted to comment on what Ryan said. Hopefully it's over. But I don't think those two guys like each other. I'm not going to say hate. I don't believe that. But I don't think they like each other. And best case scenario, RG3 will get another job, presumably with Fox or somewhere else, maybe with some of these online big money entities that want to have sports content. He's a smart guy. But I think he's a little salty for getting fired by ESPN. And I was thinking about this today. Whether or not people like you, it does matter. It does matter. It sucks, right? Because if that was the case, some of us would not have to deal with adversity as much. Because it shouldn't matter. It should be about the job performance. But we all know the incestuous nature of organizations and the world in general. It's who you know, and it's how people feel about you. That goes a long way. So, I don't know what RG3's situation was at ESPN, but I thought it was pretty surprising that he was let go. Aussie Rules, how you doing? Thank you for stepping in. Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark being overblown, in my opinion. Seems like many in social media trying to feed off of this. Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I don't really talk about it because I'm really about basketball. What's ridiculous, though, is Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark are not even in the same universe. They're just not. And you could probably have that conversation for the first 5 games last year, but Caitlin Clark is on that Steph Curry trajectory. At some point, no one said one negative thing about Steph Curry because they realized that he was different. And he was sitting at the big table, with the big plate, eating whatever he wanted to eat because he was controlling everything. I mean, that's it. I have no problem with that. Caitlin Clark is one of the few people, might be the only one in that league, who is really eating at the big table. Does that mean that she's the best player? No. But so what? She doesn't have to be the best player. For whatever reason, her marketing ability, her number one, her basketball ability is resonating with a fan base in ways that we've never seen before in women's basketball. She's literally the Billie Jean King of women's basketball. Don't try to understand it. Don't try to knock it. Get on board. You know, there's more than one seat in first class. She's going to raise the salaries of these women to levels that they've never seen before. I had watched Natasha Cloud play for years as a member of the Phoenix Mercury. Watching her on the Liberty, I've only watched her a couple of games. I've fallen in love with how this woman plays basketball. And that wasn't a foul, in my opinion, on Caitlin Clark. Natasha Cloud is going to become a star. This is like her 10th year. SGA, what's up? How you doing, brother? Thanks for stepping in. I'm a big fan of the WNBA. I think that they need to get rid of this narrative and really focus on what's going on. The Valkyries got to be one of the biggest stories of the early WNBA season. Did you guys know that they drafted 3 players? They cut 2 of them. And I guess their first round pick is in Lithuania. And she's probably not going to come over this year. So they basically formed a team with all free agents. And some of these teams that let some of these players go are probably knocking on the general manager's doors. That young lady, Lighty, that they got from, who was drafted in the first round by the Dallas Mavericks last year, she's a starting point guard moving forward. She's a bucket, and she can pass. I'm down with the Valkyries. I think that they're going to have some rough shooting nights, some nights. So 500 would be amazing, wouldn't it? And they play with a certain energy. They share the ball. Very impressed with the coach. Very impressed with the team. One of the real big stories of the WNBA. But that's about 4 or 5 really good teams. Seattle's good. The Aces are not as good. They're not. The Liberty's good. Indiana is good. Atlanta is much improved. So I was pissed off today. I have Amazon Prime, and I was like, okay, well, I'll watch the LA Sparks and the Seattle Storm before I watch the NBA game. I turn on Prime, and it goes, well, only the Prime customers in the Washington area can watch the game. I'm like, do I have Prime or not? The league got 12 teams. How are you going to block regions out? It's crazy. Key says, Ryan Clark needs to stop saying things he has to apologize for. RG3, not at fault for anything but sharing his opinion. I agree with you, but I mean, what about his wife kind of being in the background? What do you think about that? Was that was that a non-issue, or was there any purpose behind that? Because I didn't get that. I have no problem with anybody voicing their opinions. You know, that's his opinion. I didn't like the word choice. Angel Reese she needs to really, really study the history of women's basketball. She really needs to do that because she's 22? Probably already a millionaire. I saw an interview today online with one of my favorite players of the past, Tina Thompson, was being interviewed by Dwayne Wade and another gentleman. And I guess Tina Thompson works for the Portland Trailblazers now. I didn't know that. But you talk about a dog. You talk about somebody who, before they had the tunnel walks for the women, you know, she went on the court with her red lipstick, looking good, being physical, and at the same time, letting the world know that, yo, I'm a woman as well. She didn't have those brand opportunities that these young ladies have. You know, I just wish Angel Reese would just let everybody know how great she is. And, you know, like Jalen Brunson tonight was just awesome. You know, he didn't play well. He just let it go, man. I don't know if it was the Villanova experience, probably his life in general. Dude just understands. Now, his dad was a pro. He hasn't missed any meals in a long time, I would assume. So this league is now it's not young, but it's so tenuous, right? Teetering. Things that have happened in the NBA will ultimately happen in the WNBA. And I don't want these young ladies to get hurt by it, but they can make you go away. They can make you go away. You know, so, you know, Angel Reese is hot right now. Why not run it up? You know, why not run up a check? Right? Be glamorous. Do what Rihanna did in music. You don't want hate to be attached to you. I didn't like that. I apologize. It's been 50 some odd minutes. I haven't told you once to hit the like button. My fault, my bad. Vicky's already said numerous times I'm horrible at marketing. I am. Subscribe to the show. If you do not currently subscribe and you're listening for the first time, or you kind of been on the fence, you think you might like it, then hit the subscribe button. It definitely helps the show. The likes are going way up. People are checking the show out. We are getting some traction, but we got a long way to go. I was thinking today, I don't know, I might modify it a little bit, but I think I'm going to cover the NBA Summer League this year. So my intention is to go to Vegas for maybe 3-4 days and do some interviews, like on the scene interviews with some players and some personalities. That's different from me actually doing an interview on this show. You guys might think I'm crazy and maybe it doesn't make any sense, but I said that I would not do an interview until I have 1,000 subscribers. I barely got 300 now. I think last time I checked, I had 296. I got a long way to go. It doesn't mean that I won't do interviews that I put online, because I mean, I think I have an opportunity to do that. But I really don't want to do interviews until we get to 1,000 subscribers. You know, I think we can do it. I believe in us, but I need to do a better job marketing the show. RC Rule says, like. Thank you. Keith says, how great was Leslie Miller? Cheryl Miller, you mean? Or Lisa Leslie? Both of them? Lisa Leslie in today's WNBA would be the best player in the league. Period. She would dominate. She was the Shaq of her era. Defensively? Are you kidding me? As good a defensive player as Aja Wilson is, she's no Lisa Leslie. Lisa Leslie was 6'5". She dunked. She could shoot a jumper, and she was nasty. Lisa Leslie was nasty. Look at those Olympic teams. They've never lost. Our current Olympic teams actually get challenged. And there might be some teams in 28 that give us even a better run. Lisa Leslie is truly one of the greatest players in the history of women's basketball, if not the greatest. Now, same interview that I saw with Tina Thompson, she said her GOAT is Cheryl Miller, another USC alum. I think Cheryl Miller revolutionized women's basketball. Cheryl Miller was what? Maybe, is she 6'2", 6'3"? Scored 100 points in a high school game. Cheryl Miller was awesome. She really was. Now, the skill-wise, I think women have come a long way since she played. But Cheryl Miller was great. Lisa Leslie, to me, was the best two-way player that we've ever seen in women's basketball, college and pro. She was that good. With that said, we've never seen a player like Caitlin Clark with that type of offensive package, that intuitive passing skills. As a passer, Caitlin Clark kind of reminds me of John Stockton. Just her head is always up. She knows where to deliver the ball. Instinctively, she throws a long pass. No one in the W has had the combination from the point guard position with the shooting ability and the passing ability. So at the end of the day, Caitlin Clark has an opportunity to rewrite all the records in the history of women's basketball. I would like to see her complain less. I don't like the complaining in general that I see in the WNBA. I think the women are too good for it. And I think the reason why they allow it is because they don't make a lot of money, right? The coaches, so the fines are really low compared to the guys. And you could say, Red, comparatively speaking, the fines are low for the guys compared to how much they make. But I saw a fine of like $30 last week when two young ladies both got text. They charged them like $30 or something. Come on. But the complaining to the refs, we got to stop that. It's stop it. And the coaches are going hard at the referees also. We got to, that's bad for the game in my opinion. Maybe you have a different opinion. I don't know. Aussie Rules thinks covering the NBA Summer League is a good idea. Yeah, I've done it in the past. I love it. It is so much fun. That's the cheat code, really. I think fans of basketball want to keep that secret. It gets a little less secretive every year because it gets more and more popular every year. But everybody is accessible in Vegas. The players are not uptight. The executives are there. You can get a lot done in Vegas at the NBA Summer League. It's a great time. It really is. If you're a basketball fan, I would highly encourage it. And you'll probably see 2 games from, the top players. Cooper Flagg will probably play 1 game. Maybe 1 or 2. I can't imagine him playing more than 2. But maybe he'll give the crowds 1 game. Austin Rule says, Cheryl Miller was a trendsetter. Like in golf, Tiger acknowledged Lee Elder, Charles Shifford, Calvin Peete, and trendsetters paving the way for Tiger. Absolutely. And one of the things I like about Caitlin Clark and I like about Paige Beckers is they exhibit great reverence for players who came before them. Caitlin Clark's idol, if you will, was Maya Moore. I love Maya Moore. Love her. And Paige Beckers used her platform at the ESPYs to talk about how brands and the media in general should acknowledge women of color who were not getting the same level of notoriety that some other young ladies got. So I think Paige Beckers, Caitlin Clark, they both get it. The complaining from Caitlin, though, that has to stop. I don't like that. Too much of it. Frantic Rage, what's up? He says, Frank, what's your opinion on those that say the WNBA players aren't real athletes because they play under the basket? Ignorant, churlish and ignorant. I mean, come on, man. I mean, who would make a statement like that? Seriously. Somebody who got cut from his third grade kickball team. I mean, come on, man. If you watch, listen, what happened when Stephen Curry and Sabrina Ionescu had a shooting contest? She almost beat Stephen Curry. You think these ladies are not skilled? Did you watch Alicia Gray Alyssa Gray on the Atlanta Dream yesterday, going like 4 for 7 from 3? These young ladies are skilled. I can watch a gazillion games and not see a dunk, and it won't bother me. I love watching basketball. I watch youth basketball, school, college, because they play below the rim. That's just downright stupid, right? Vicky says, hit the like button. Thank you, Vicky. I appreciate you. Is that the like button? Yeah, man. The eyeballs say that dunking really doesn't matter that much. You know, it doesn't really matter. It's beautiful basketball. Now, there are some teams that are more skilled than others. I get that. They're two different games. I don't compare the W to the NBA. I don't. I watch them both. I enjoy them both. The one thing that I don't like is, and I don't know if the W quite knows how to handle it yet, but the level of complaining has to stop. You know, and a lot of it, unfortunately, happens when Indiana plays. I mean, let your fans complain. That's what they do. Aaliyah Boston, one of my favorite players, who's awesome. She complains too much as far as I'm concerned. Caitlin Clark complains too much. You know, I mean, you're not going to get every call. Vicky says the WNBA players are good to great. I would go with that. Frantic Ray said they actually can be more fun to watch because it's more pure basketball. I agree. I mean, look at the Liberty. You got Jonquel Jones balling, Breanna Stewart balling, Sabrina Ionescu, Natasha Cloud. What? They're trying to run it back. I also want to get this in. If it's possible that an NFL team could win games in the offseason before they even play, I think the 49ers have done that. The 49ers have had as good an offseason as anybody, as far as I'm concerned. Number one, they're going to have most of all their players in camp because they're on signing. Unlike last year where we had to hear these narratives about whether or not a player is worth this. No, they knew that they were hurt last year because they were fractured. Now, losing Greenwall theoretically is tough, but they didn't have him last year. Hafunga was also hurt. One of the things that I liked that I think punctuated their offseason was signing Fred Warner midweek to the richest contract of any linebacker in the NFL, middle linebacker. That shows loyalty. I still think that he is playing at a high level. And when you got a guy like that who's signed, that helps you in the locker room also. So Kittle was signed, Purdy signed, Warner signed. 49ers did a lot of good things. Now, every time I see Keon Coleman, the Buffalo Bills, running up the sideline, making big-time plays, it pisses me off. Because he was a guy who I wanted the 49ers to draft. And they drafted Ricky Pearsall. Now, I'm hoping that Pearsall can come back and have a phenomenal year. I don't follow the draft that closely. I watch football and I want to see with my eyes. But Keon Coleman jumped off the screen to me. When I watched him at Florida State, I was like, I got to have that guy. A former basketball player who actually got on the floor for Tom Izzo, and he's playing football? So I'm interested to see what the 49ers wide receiver core looks like, especially when you consider that, the narrative out there is Ayuk is not going to be back at the start of the season. I'm going to let that rest, and we can talk about it as it happens. I don't know. I watched something today that blew my mind. I was so happy. I watched UNC women versus Northwestern in the national championship of the women's lacrosse game. And those ladies were flying up and down the field. I played lacrosse, so I love the game. And the stick handling, the athleticism, that game continues to grow. And just a good time. The only problem that I have with women's lacrosse, and maybe some of you all have an opinion on this, they have these skimpy little face guards. I'm like, some lady's going to get hit and get her teeth knocked out with these sticks. Why don't they have headgear like the guys? I don't understand that. They don't have shoulder pads, and they don't have like full-fledged helmets. Why not? I don't get it. Vicky says, the basketball refs will always get criticized. The best way to stop the players from criticizing the refs if the team start losing a timeout. That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. I just think that it hurts the game. I mean, show some decorum, right? As much respect as I have for Stephanie White, both as a player, as a coach, and as a broadcaster, it feels like she's feeling the pressure as the new coach of Indiana because she's killing the refs. Killing them. I'm like, no, we need to stop. Keith says, we need to sign a veteran wide receiver like Amari Cooper or Gabe Davis. We have nobody that scares teams. I guess Gabe Davis was in for a visit, was out this past week. And Amari Cooper, that's a great name. That's a really good name. And I think it's interesting, Keys, because I think the 49ers are probably on your wavelength and thinking that, they'll be able to pick up a veteran, once they see how much money they got or see what weight class they're in. Because a guy like, Amari Cooper probably still wants a pretty nice check. So there are players out there. I think we'll definitely see the 49ers go out and sign somebody. But who is that person? Who are those veterans that they're going to probably go get? I don't know. But they certainly need help. The other story in the NFL, we haven't even started, is the Shedeur Sanders deal. I want to see that play out. I mean, Cleveland's not going to be on Hard Knocks. I think maybe Indianapolis is. But yeah, I would love to see Cleveland doing Hard Knocks, but I think they probably wanted no part of that. One of the things I wanted to mention, who it was kind of a controversial figure, but obviously you don't want to see anybody lose their life. But Jim Irsay, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts, died at 65. 65 feels like the new 52 to me, right? I mean, somebody who's probably living his dream, the owner of an NFL team, has one of the best collection of classic guitars known to man, a historian when it comes to music, Bob Dylan, the Beatles. He has some trials and tribulations that we all know about. You know, you can do your own research on that. But to see somebody lose their life at 65, who seemingly was living his dream, pretty sad. I want to salute him and send prayers and condolences out to his family, because that's way too young. You know, it's never a good time. You know, somebody said, well, he died too young, and she died too young. No, it's never a good time. You know, unless you're making that decision on your own. I would not want to be in incessant pain and call that living. I wouldn't want to do that personally. I wouldn't want to do that. But yeah, Jim Irsay passed away. I salute you. Vicky says, if the 49ers would get an O-line, then Kittle could catch more. Yeah, you know what? Offensive lines, Vicky, though, you know what? Sometimes they play better than we expect. Think about, the 49ers played last year for half the season without their best offensive lineman. So, you know, for people who really dig in the woods, you know, and they follow this offensive line and they're breaking down tape, you know, I give them the credit. You know, I don't do that. I don't have time for that. You know, I know when an offensive line sucks. I know that Philadelphia has one of the best offensive lines in all of football. I know that. But let's go to training camp. Let's see what they go with. Let's see if guys have improved. You know, we know that they need a good offensive line to be well. I mean, to be good. And Brock Purdy struggles when he has a lot of pressure on him. You give him a clean pocket, less tip balls. He's very accurate. He's probably going to have a pretty good year if they have a good offensive line, and equally important if McCaffrey is back 100%. He says the Niners season will be defined by the success of their draft picks, because half of them will need to start. I'm excited. You know, football is one of those games at the professional level that you literally can turn your horizons around by the players that you draft. That, I mean, it's tried and true. You look at the LA Rams, they historically have done a good job, particularly under the McVay tenure. Now, he's not the general manager, but since he's been there, they've drafted extremely well. Pittsburgh drafts well. Baltimore drafts well. Green Bay generally drafts well as well. So I miss football. I do. As big a basketball fan as I am, I really miss football, which is why I find myself watching, you know, the USFL on occasion. I got a twist for y'all tonight. I didn't really want to deal with the Mission Impossible crowds, so I'm gonna go see that next week. What I decided to do was I stayed home last night, and on Amazon Prime I watched a movie that I wanted to see. I watched G20. For those of you who have Amazon Prime, G20, starring Viola Davis and I can't think of the guy's name. Good movie. Really good movie. And I was really impressed because Viola Davis also produced that movie. If G20 was in the theater, it probably would have made $50-60 million. That's how good it is. Good story, intrigue, technology. The premise is not crazy ridiculous. It's about world leaders going to the G20 meeting, conference, summit, if you will, and some entity that has ulterior motives essentially takes all of the leaders, the world leaders, as hostages. And madness ensues from there. And Viola Davis did her thing. And good movie. Check it out. G20. If you have Amazon Prime, check it out. RC Rule says USC wants to back out of annual game with Notre Dame because head coaches thinks schedule with Big Ten is too tough. It's logical, but I don't. But I don't like it. USC and UCLA in the Big Ten should be a crime. You know, why are they doing that to kids? Oh, I know, because of money. I like seeing Notre Dame and USC play every year. I like seeing Notre Dame and Stanford play every year. I get why they want to get out of it because they don't want to take an L. But I don't agree with it. No, absolutely not. And I'm hoping that at some point the Pac-12 is going to get back together. Because it makes no sense. Cal, it's crazy, man. Cal basketball in the ACC, really? They panicked. The only Pac-12 teams that I think that I kind of get it, Colorado seems at home in the Big 12. I have no problem with them. They weren't in the Pac-12 for a long period of time. Oregon, because they are the monstrosity that they are in college sports because of the Nike money, they can play in any league. I get it. Arizona, to me, is a Pac-12 team. You know? Frantic Rage agrees with me. Ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Totally agree. Maybe it will change. We covered a lot of ground tonight. Maybe I'll pop on again on Tuesday after the game. The Knicks gave us what the New York Knicks fans wanted to see, was a victory. I actually, you know what, when the game was really tight at the end, I didn't have I wasn't overwhelmingly confident that the Knicks were going to win the game. I wasn't. What I was proud of was they did not lay down. They came out and they fought. And that gave them hope. It definitely created a sense of value for Tom Thibodeau because we were wondering, and he made some adjustments, and it worked out for him. But coaching is hard. And like I said at the beginning of the show, sometimes you need your players to make plays for you. You know, no one has like a magic box of answers. You know, you try to do the best job you can do. Be open-minded, like I think Tibbs was tonight, played his bench. And, you know, you let the players that you're paying big money do their jobs. OG Anunoby played pretty well. He made some big shots. When the Knicks were faltering, he made some big long-range threes. I'm going to say this because it sounds ridiculous to some of you, but the Knicks might want to be in the Jonathan Kuminga business also for Mikal Bridges. Because I don't know if the Knicks can come back, even if they win the title. Now, one title for the Knicks will last for at least a decade or 20 years. So, I mean, they can do no wrong for 5 years if they win a championship. All right? But saying that, when you look at OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, we're getting a real good sample size at both of those players. And both of them are just forwards. They're like 3.5s. You know, they're not 3s and they're not 4s. They're kind of like 3.5s. They play D. They can shoot and make shots, but they're not real playmakers. So if Mikal Bridges were traded to the Warriors, he could vacillate between the 2 and the 3 position. You know, he's not a natural 2. He's not a natural 3. But he would really, I mean, he solidifies your defense. I would love to see him play with Stephen Curry. You know, if you got, and he can play the 2. He can guard 2s. If you got Stephen Curry, Mikal Bridges, Draymond, Jimmy Butler, and a center that they get in free agency, I like that team. I like that. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm ridiculous. And if I'm New York, because they're going to have some salary problems, I think, down the road. You know, you get a young kid and Kuminga coming off a championship maybe that you can develop. You know, OG can play a more natural 4 and Kuminga can play a 3. You got Cat. That would be kind of interesting to me. I don't know if you guys think I'm crazy, but something I was thinking about today. Vicky says, Cal lost 12 kids and Stanford lost 15 kids in the transfer portal. Yeah, man. I mean, come on. Aussie Rule says, Texas going to the SEC, USC going to the Big Ten. Really messed things up. I think SC to the Big Ten was worse. Texas to the SEC, they can recruit with those schools. They can. You know that. Austin Rules, you know they can recruit with those schools. And the SEC has more things. It's a shinier league, better weather, you know. I get it. I don't have a big problem with Texas going to SEC. In terms of travel, it's not that big a deal. And they have the money. University of Texas can compete with the Floridas of the world. You know? The Alabamas of the world. They can compete with those teams. USC, Key says, Cat needs to keep being aggressive, going to the lane, and not settling for threes. He will bring the Knicks back. I hope you're right, man. What a great first step tonight in his lineage as a New York Knick. That was phenomenal. Yes, it was. All right. I want everybody to have a wonderful Memorial Day. OKC plays Minnesota tomorrow, right? All right. That's a good way to end our Memorial Day. You guys have a wonderful day when you eat a hamburger or a hot dog or a veggie burger, whatever you do. Think of your boy Frank Red. Hopefully you hit the like button or you subscribe to the show. We really appreciate it. Knick fans out there, I'm with you. Join the party. We're going to talk about the Knicks and what the prospects of success are, along with all of the other sports. The intersections between sports, pop culture, and everything else that are on our minds. We will touch on it. Aussie Rule says, thanks, Frank. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Vicky likes chicken. Vicky, what are you eating tomorrow? I went food shopping yesterday. This is what I'm making for Memorial Day tomorrow. I'm making barbecue chicken. I'm making collard greens with turkey necks. I'm making cornbread. I'm making mac and cheese with prawns. And I'm making potato salad. My mom's recipe. I'm going to have a nice day eating. Can't wait. All right, everybody. That's going to do it. Let me break down and do my thing and get out of here. Success is getting paid. Success in getting paid is a manifestation of the whole process. If you as an individual don't do things to help other people make their lives better, as far as I'm concerned, you haven't done nothing. I'll talk to you in a couple of days, if not tomorrow. I might sneak in here. Until the next time, thank you. I really appreciate all the support. Hit the like button, subscribe to the show. My name is Frank Red, if you didn't know. Everybody be safe. Good night, everybody.